This is Masks of Nyarlathotep returning. Episode 41, I believe this is. And we have got Natalya and Thaddeus, but no Shelley. She has run off. So, where we last left, Natalya and Thaddeus had just discovered that Shelley has taken her leave, and they are, I don't know, moping in the hotel. You tell me. That's where we ended. What are they doing? This was like late morning, if you recall. Natalya woke up with her head a little hurting, and she's a little out of it. And Thaddeus, of course, stayed up late. So this is his normal time to wake up.
And Natalya has read the note a few times over, just to let those words sink in, that Shelley was really leaving them. With Natalya being no stranger to people disappearing out of her life. It's something that she knew the feeling of, but it still hurt. Especially Shelley being gone after they talked so much, after they confided in each other and have been through all these trials and tribulations together. No matter what, it still hurt Natalya, even if Shelley thought she was doing what she thought was best for herself. So Natalya is still seeing that Shelley's book was there, her journal. She didn't dare to touch it. She just left it sitting on one of the coffee tables. She put down the note she left, got up, and went back to the room. Her head still pulsating and hurting, most likely from a heavy-handed dose of her medication the night before from Shelley.
A dose of betrayal, perhaps?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Natalya just kind of lays on the bed and curls her knees up to her chest, and she doesn't cry. She just kind of lays there thinking about what could have been done differently. Maybe something else that could have gotten Shelley to stay. Something different they could have done even back in England. Maybe try to help her more, protect her, not have Gavigan take her while she was with Alice. Regretting that night that she and Thaddeus stayed late at the Blue Pyramid Club. All this kind of runs through Natalya's mind as she lays on the bed, thinking.
And Thaddeus?
Thaddeus, let it fully sink in. He's more upset the fact that she left with what we consider the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking to himself, well, if she wanted to go and says she's going to spy for us, but I doubt it. There's this intoxicating stuff she's into. And he kind of looks up and looks over at Natalya. Well, she's gone.
It looks like Natalya has actually gone back in her room, leaving him alone.
He kind of sees that she's gone. Oh, I guess we can't go lazing about. Get up and go over and pour himself a glass of whiskey. He'll pour Shelley, he'll pour Natalya some. And he'll go over and knock on her door.
As he knocks on the door, he hears a very faint little sliding sound under the door, of the front door to the room. And looking over, he can see that someone has shoved a little white envelope under the door.
Oh, ain't that peculiar? And he'll continue with what he was going to do, not worried about the note disappearing since it's already slid under the door. He'll give it a knock. Are you clothed?
Um, it's only been a moment, Thaddeus. You can come in.
I don't want to be any surprises, I guess. You'll open the door. You'll go in. How about you a drink?
Ty kind of rolls back over and sits up, taking the drink from Thaddeus with her girded arm. Thank you, Thaddeus.
Yes, well, it's gotten me through some hard times. Maybe it has some little magic for you.
I don't know, Thaddeus. Maybe, but I feel a lot more lost than ever now that Shelley's gone.
Well, I think you did your best in trying to persuade her to stay. In the end, it's her choice.
I know. But she says that she'll spy on them, but for what? Exactly, it's just the two of us, Thaddeus. I'm injured.
Yeah. Well, I wish you weren't, but nothing we could do could change that.
I wish I wasn't either, Thaddeus. I don't know what we're going to do.
Well, he kind of swigs his drink. You know, there was a time when I didn't know what I was going to do. And you know what I ended up doing?
Oh, what?
Going to that godforsaken country called Peru. And starting myself down this rabbit hole. We've gotten this far. We've seen some pretty bad things and had some pretty bad stuff happen to us. And he looks at her arm. And definitely some bad stuff happened to you. But we must persevere if we're ever gonna get to the bottom of things for Jackson.
At this point, it's for a lot more than Jackson. It's him and Frank and Alan, Alice and Benjamin and just everyone past that who we've not even met. It's a lot, that is. I don't know if we can do it. Just you and I.
Well, I don't think we have much of a choice. I think it has to be us, no matter what. Even if we just decided to go back to New York and try to live normal life, I think it would just follow us wherever we go.
Unfortunately, we've kind of doomed ourselves at this point to this path.
Yes, that we did. He kind of finish off his drink. But in hindsight, not knowing what everything, why she would choose to go with Gavigan, he's a kind of our enemy. Even if she said she's going to spy, I think there's more to it. With that being said, I think we should move along. Leave here, find elsewhere, make ourselves disappear. For a moment, at least.
Yeah. Thaddeus, can you promise me something?
I find it easier not to make the promises that way. I don't have to feel bad when I break.
Talia kind of looks down at her drink.
At this point,
Yep.
there's been nothing but promises broken, I think.
You're right. Never mind then.
Well, I mean, you might as well out with it. You can't start to have a conversation.
No, that is, there's no point. Natalia gets up and takes a sip of the drink and heads out to the living room.
Thaddeus will follow her with his empty glass, going over to refill it again. Well, I'm not sure where we go from here, but like I said, with her being with Gavin, I don't know how safe we actually are.
I don't think we are. Thaddeus, we need to leave.
Well, maybe we could pet us closer to some destination. What do you think? Oh, go ahead.
Maybe we can ask our guide if he's not gone too.
Yes, maybe he went off with Gavin as well. He's such an alluring person.
Natalia shrugs and looks over towards the door. I guess she'll see the note that's been slipped.
Oh,
Yes, she would see it.
yeah, somebody slipped that thunder when I was gonna come in your room. I figured it could wait.
Oh, why don't you read it, Thaddeus? My English is not the best as is if it is in English, and I still have a headache from the medication.
Oh, I hope it's in English as well, considering that's our the one who speaks Arabic is gone. She'll pick it up.
It is addressed to Mr. Pepin and Ms. Vescovia.
Oh, would you look at that? It's someone who knows our surnames. I think either be good or bad. I'll start walking over towards him and tell you that. Sit down in his chair.
It's a sealed envelope, but it has no stamp or addresses or anything. It just says Mr. Pepin and Ms. Vescovia on the front.
And there's no perfume rating in it from it. So I thought it's a love letter.
I'll open it then.
Dad's kind of give it a look over before he does it. He tears off the top. He pulls it out, whatever's inside.
It's 3 folded pieces of paper. Definitely a letter. Do you look at what do you want to look at first? The first, second, or third page?
He'll go in order, first page.
Okay. I have shared it. It is very difficult, crabby handwriting. If you want, I will be happy to read it for you.
Please do.
Yes.
Very well. Dear Mr. Pepin and Ms. Vescovia, as you are by now most likely aware, Shelley shall no longer serve as an active member of your quaint little coterie. She has instead elected to join with me in a grand endeavor and shall find her place at my side as we remake the world in a new and glorious form. You will undoubtedly attempt to rationalize her departure as the result of some sort of coercion or sorcerous manipulation, but I assure you nothing could be further from the truth. I merely presented her with facts and an invitation. Having weighed the options for her future, she chose the wiser course. I half expected her to request the two of you be extended the same invitation, or at least obtain some special dispensation. as former colleagues of hers, but you'll be interested to know that she made no such request. I rather suspect she is content to trade in her old life and all of its meager trappings for the infinitely more promising one that awaits her, and she has simply recognized that there's no place in that future for either of you. Even so, I do feel I owe you a small debt of gratitude, most notably for introducing Shelley to my life, but also for assisting me, even if unintentionally, in clearing house back in England. I therefore leave you with 2 parting gifts by way of a thank you. First, I have spoken, and then there's a second page. First, I have spoken with Mr. Al-Shakti and argued on your behalf, convincing him that despite the momentary inconvenience you have caused him, you pose no actual threat to our organization and should therefore be allowed to go on your merry way. Omar is admittedly churlish and spiteful, even where it's unwarranted, but so long as you give him no further reason to indulge in his penchant for petty vengeance, I expect he shall honor our gentleman's agreement. The second gift is related to the first, and though it consists merely of advice, I consider it to be of equal value to the first, for though it is oft ignored in my experience, honest counsel is a rare and precious treasure indeed. It would be best for all concerned if you set aside whatever it is you think you are trying to accomplish and return to America immediately. You're too late now to prove anything more than a minor irritant, and should you persist in sticking your nose where it does not belong, I fear it shall end in tragedy for the both of you, and shall cause Shelley no small amount of stress at a time where she should be focusing on those things that truly matter. So go home now, and enjoy what months remain to you, pursuing whatever trivial activities may grant you some small degree of pleasure or satisfaction. Life is most precious when it is in short supply, and you should know that your personal supply is fast running out. In short order, and here's another page. In short order, you and the remainder of our disappointing species, which has limped pointlessly on through ages of fruitless toil and vain aspiration, shall witness the birth of a god who shall sweep this world aside so that a new one may be ushered in wherein man shall finally begin the journey toward true knowledge and perfection in both mind and body. I suggest you prepare for that most terrible and glorious day, so you may meet your end with a modicum of dignity and composure. I do realize that in declaring your imminent demise, I may be inadvertently prompting you to attempt some sort of mad heroics, reasoning that you may as well perish in a grand gesture of defiance. However, I assure you that doing so would prove a very grave mistake indeed. Should you persist in drawing undue attention to yourself, I fear that your fate will not entail the quick and noble death you may envisage, but will rather involve a much more permanent state of agony and regret. Trust me when I say that there are forms of immortality that leave one begging for an end that never comes. Yours truly, Edward Charles Gavigan, Esquire.
Well, Daddy's kind of eyes up in the letters. What do you think?
Tell his hands, they seem to be shaking while holding the cup. She looks over to Thaddeus. What if he's like, if we only have a few months left, what are we doing?
Well, I like to think of it as a few months left, and I, for one, I wouldn't like it to last not longer than a few months. I think we were more than the minor irritant to them. It's just my opinion.
Natalia is still staring down her drink. I don't know, Thaddeus. Maybe that if we continue on, it's going to be for nothing, and we're just going to die anyways. And I'm not going to spend the last few months that I have with my daughter.
I mean, we couldn't go back, but how are you going to tell your daughter that it's only for a few months before we all cease to exist?
I don't know, Thaddeus. But it'll be something.
Well, we can very well do that, or we can fight. Try to save everybody, even if some don't deserve it.
But what if we don't, Thaddeus? What if it all ends anyway?
Well, I mean, I for one wouldn't mind sitting back with a good whiskey and watching the eventual demise. Don't have a lot of stuff to pass on to anybody. I'll end up in some trust, or one of my distant cousins will get it all. Doesn't matter to me. But I've seen you and your little girl. I do think it's a future worth fighting for.
Natalia looks up to Thaddeus. I'm on the fence, Thaddeus. I really am. There's much of me that wants to try and keep going, but after Shelley leaving, and after all this, if I spend the next few months, we get nothing done, and we end up dying anyway. That could have been time with Svetlana that I'll never get.
Well, we're looking at this kind of wrong. You gotta remember, first we have to get back to New York. I think that drastically cuts into the time you think you have.
You see tears start to well up in Natalia's eyes. You're right. No matter what, we're fucked here.
I don't like that, because we're in a sour situation. I think we're in an advantageous situation, because looking at it, I don't think we have much to lose. It's all going to be lost anyways if we fail, or if we don't do it.
I don't know, Thaddeus. I'm losing hope.
There hasn't been much hope through any of this. It's been us running the whole time, if you think about it. We ran from New York to England, ran from England across the continent to Egypt. Now we want to run back to New York and hope we get there in time to enjoy a little bit of the time that we have left. I think maybe we stop running.
I guess that's It's the only real option at this point. Is to stop running.
And I do think we're in the right spot. This is if the so-called new god or old god or whatever god is coming, it's going to be here.
There.
We just need more allies. We need, as much as I hate to say it to people, even though they'll probably hurt or dead, I don't think we could look at them as anything but soldiers. Because if we start to get close, they end up getting hurt, and we end up getting hurt. Now, maybe it's about the greater good.
And where do we start again from here, that is? Where do we go?
Well, I guess we have to ask our trusty guide if he's still here. But first, I think us leaving should be the precedent. Or do we stay and flaunt it?
I think no matter what, they're going to find us. I think if we stay here, maybe they won't suspect that we're continuing plots against them and such. Maybe they will. But if we move somewhere else and they find out, then they'll come directly after us.
Okay. Well, I guess where do we go from here? What do we have to figure out what exactly we need to be at? What do we need to stop?
We should go and speak to the doctor again.
Thaddeus finishes off the rest of his whiskey in his glass. Well then, what are we waiting for?
Are you going to get some lunch first, perhaps?
That's a good
You
idea.
have eaten nothing. Just saying.
Yes, we should eat. I'm going to get changed out of night clothes. But I'll be ready in a few minutes.
Thaddeus kind of nods and stands up, kind of tucks in his shirt.
Natalya goes and gets changed.
Okay. Okay, and then a little food down in the dining room, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
All right. While you're eating lunch, give me a spot hidden, Natalya.
Okay. Yep.
You have this feeling you're being watched, but you look around the room and you see no familiar faces, and you're just not sure, but it's just a feeling. But maybe you're feeling a little paranoid. It's possible too.
Natalya, she kind of feels the hairs in the back of her neck stand. She very carefully looks around the room to see who's following, if there's anybody there, but seeing no one, she looks to Thaddeus and kind of leans in and whispers, I think that they're still keeping eyes on us here. I can feel it.
as you look around too, you and Thaddeus, you look around as she's saying that. There's at least a couple tables where there are a couple of men sitting there. They look, to be English, European at least. And it seems like they do kind of glance over in your direction every once in a while, maybe more than would be normal.
Yes, there's some eyes over there.
But you're not sure. It could, again, just sort of be your imagination.
I guess the best thing we could do is take note of them and act like we don't even notice or care.
Okay.
I guess, but when we go traveling, we should... Let's not go see the doctor right away. Let's just see if we can spot the same people following us, alright?
That we can do.
Good. Let's finish this lunch and head outside. Yeah.
Do you need anything? Do you need to take anything with you? Or are you going straight from lunch?
Thaddeus would actually go back in the room and make sure to grab Shelley's notes just on the off chance they would need them. Her journal.
Natalya?
Natalya, does she definitely grab all of her notes and then all the notes that they've collected thus far, like the newspaper, like the usual, what she carries with her in her little bag.
Okay.
But she's leaving her book.
Okay. All right, so you go in the room and you start to grab stuff, and you both kind of stop in mid-grab of things. What happens? Slip.
Well, you could.
Oh, you'll have to start over. You're breaking up badly.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I still breaking up? Okay. And suddenly it occurs to you that the sofa's turned at a slightly different angle. And you turn around and start looking around the room, and just by the door, so if you had come in and the door opens into the room, it would have been obscured by the open door, but now that you turn and face the way you had come, there's a chair, and there's a woman sitting in the chair. A pretty blonde woman. She's smiling sweetly at you. She's wearing a black evening dress that screams high fashion. Her hair is in perfect pin curls, although what catches your eye best is the Ruger in her hand, leveled in your direction. She catches both of your eyes, and her smile widens a bit. Hello, Mr. Pepin. It's take a picture. Here we are. You and your little tramp here can take a seat. She gestures with the pistol toward the sofa in the sitting area, which has been turned more to face her. I've got boy, how to get some
Hold on. Yeah, you're breaking up
You're
again. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Just start the last sentence over again.
All right. She says, I got questions. And boy, howdy, am I going to get some answers.
Thaddeus looking over at this blonde bombshell there, with the gunpoint. And Natalya, I do believe that she intends to threaten us into talking to her. Might as well sit down, I think.
Natalya looks over the gun, looks over the woman. She doesn't look worried at all. Just stares at her. I'd suggest staying where you're sitting. If you come any closer, I'll take that pretty little blonde neck of yours and make sure to snap it. There.
Well, that's kind of the point of me having a gun. so I don't have to get closer, see? So you there, tall, blonde, and commie, take a pair of them cuffs, and you see some handcuffs lying on the sofa, and snap them on lovable. Let me move.
Oh my. Natalia, I do believe this is about to get interesting.
Natalia goes over and takes the cuffs into her good hand. Moves over to Thaddeus. Alright. I guess we're doing this.
Does she snap the cuffs into place?
She does, but she'll leave them loose enough for maybe him to kind of pull out if he needs to.
Natalia, make a sleight of hand check for me.
Oop. I need to actually click that because I don't have that enabled. That's how bad it is.
That's a good indication of how many times, yeah.
Sleight of hand. Oh, it's a 10. I'm just out of luck spending. Yeah, see, you can
No.
obviously
You can spend 6 if you want.
You know what?
I don't have a problem with people overspending luck as long as they're not being ridiculous.
Ooh. Nah. I'll just go with it. So she attempts to make it seem like.
So it either snaps 1 too few or 1 too many. So roll, and if you roll any die. If you roll even, it's not enough. If it's odd, okay. So unfortunately, it's odd. So you actually snap them on effectively. You tried to keep it, just loose enough that that the woman wouldn't notice, but you got a little. You snapped it 1 too many, and you think you probably put it on more snugly than you intended.
Yeah, that's how I kind of curses under her breath, but finishes putting the cuffs on Thaddeus.
Thaddeus will look down at the cuffs. I feel fully subdued.
Now what do you want, woman?
Ooh,
Woman?
What do you want, woman? We're not hearing you if you're trying to talk.
I do believe you left her speechless.
I'm sorry. I lost connection for a second. Okay. So Natalia rolled a 10, and did you push it? Or did you spend luck points?
She didn't roll a 10. She failed.
Okay.
And
but
so
they're tight.
It looks like, so as far as the woman is concerned, it looks like she did a good job.
All right. So with that, she says, now, them other cuffs, put them on yourself. You can keep them in front. Your arm looks a little bit rough.
Natalia's face kind of sours a bit. They will attempt, but as you can see, I do have an injury. Would you like to do it for me?
No, you can manage. As you so helpfully pointed out, if I get close, I lose the advantage of this little piece of steel in my hand.
Depending, hopefully you can pull the trigger fast enough. And Thaddeus sits down, putting the cuffs on.
Oh, believe me, honey, I've had plenty of practice.
So what do you want, anyway?
As I said, answers. So, I've seen you around. Do you know who I am? Give me your best guess.
She looks at the woman. I assume you're from New York as well, based on your accent. Based on your demeanor, I assume you're a whore. That's why you're here.
I'm afraid not. I'm from a much higher class place, the Windy City. But do you see anything familiar about my profile, maybe? She kind of turns her face to the side. Something that just nags at you. Makes you feel a little like maybe you've seen someone like me before. The features.
I'll let both of you make intelligence rolls.
Perfect.
Well, at least somebody got it.
No, it'd take more than just a regular success.
Well, a fail will do it.
I know exactly who you are.
No, you really don't. You're not really sure.
I think she's trying to get at something, Natalia, but I don't know. She seems long and drawn out. What do you think? And you look over at her as he's saying it out loud.
Well, let me give you a little clue. She picks up, with her free hand, a letter from her lap. It's obviously been folded and comes from an envelope. I'll just read this to you. Hey, sis. Hope you're still loving the Windy City and keeping your skirts from blowing up. I don't know if I like the sound of your new beau, but you always did have your own mind, and ain't nobody gonna change it for you, least of all your big brother. Just watch your back and remember that if things go south, there's always a place for you here. I've been putting aside half my pay so that if you come to your senses and want to go straight, there'll be a real soft landing until you can get back on your feet. I gotta say, Mr. Pepin is the best thing that ever happened to me. A real good guy. And generous, too. And she looks up at Thaddeus pointedly, her eyes narrowing, before going back to the letter. Never thought I'd meet an honest rich man, but he's the real deal. Some odd stuff going around here lately. I guess all important people collect some enemies, but nothing I can't handle. I would never let anything happen to him. So tell me more about this smarty character. He better be treating you right, or he's going to have to answer to me. I keep reading in the papers that Chicago is getting to be a dangerous place, and I can't help. Anyway, enough about that. I sent Mom a letter too, but give her a kiss for me when you see her. Love. And she looks up at this last bit. Frankie. I got this letter more than a month ago, and when 2 more weeks went by without a word or a call, I knew something was up. Went to New York and found out that you had fled the country under some strange circumstances. Just missed you in London. But now I got you, and I want to know, where's Frank?
Oh. Frank never mentioned he had a sister. I guess that would have been unprofessional. But, yes, Frank was a great guy. The unfortunate part is, as your letter states, there's some weird stuff that was going on. And unfortunately, with much sadness, he kind of bows his head a little bit. Looking kind of sad. He died protecting me.
Her lips pursed and her eyes narrow and her hand with the gun starts to shake a little bit. She drops her and pistol with her other hand. You say he's dead? I checked with the coroner. I went through every unclaimed, all the records. No sign of him. Where's Frank?
Well, that falls into the reason why you just missed us in London and found us here. The people that killed them is the same people that we have been trying to stop, and unfortunately we've been on the losing side. But to explain what Frank said, I'm sure they hid the body in order to not attract attention, because he ended up giving his life when we were fleeing a rundown little shop. I'm not sure what you've come in contact with of trying to follow us, but sure, maybe you talked to some questionable people or some odd people. Maybe not, but they would be the ones that know where we're going at all times because they've been watching us.
I have noticed some strange comings and goings,
Well,
not knowing exactly what to make of it.
well, those are probably the same people that were involved with the murder of your brother, unfortunately, and the murder of more than just your brother. There's been a few people that they've killed in our span of time here in London and Egypt.
Listen, Mr. Pepin, believe you me, I know what it's like to be around dangerous people. I ain't exactly been an angel, but Frank, of all of us, everyone in our family, he did everything he could to get out of that life, to go completely straight. He was always trying to get me to follow in his footsteps, and now I find out that you, the man he loved most in the whole world, has drug him back into something slimy and criminal, something that got him killed.
Well, yes, it was criminal, but unfortunately, we're not criminals. Long story short, we had a friend that was murdered by them. In the process of trying to figure out what happened to him, well, the world opened up to a vast conspiracy. Unfortunately, even if I didn't want it to happen, they were coming after us.
Vast conspiracy? What sort of nonsense are you talking about? You must have done the mob wrong. I know that there's some dangerous fellas in New York just like there is in Chicagoland.
Daddy's kind of do a little chuckle. The mob? Oh, now. The only thing they were good for is giving my booze, and that they did. They took my money from it. Never had any ill run-ins with them. Never had a reason.
Then who are these shadowy figures you're referring to? And why would they be interested in you?
Well, it's because we stumbled upon them, and you'll look over at Natalya. See, the one they murdered was someone real close to her. And she's real close to me. We all went down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out who's what and what's what. By the time we figured it out, it was already too late. These people are, well, they're deranged. I guess you could say. They have some belief about some god or something, I don't know, but in the end, all that matters is that they've been picking us off one by one, and if it wasn't for Frank, I'm sure a lot more would have died, including him. They would have followed him wherever he went as well afterwards.
Darren, has Maxine seen anything as she's been watching them that would even remotely match up to what he's saying? Like, has she seen any hint of anything?
Make a luck
No.
check. Try a luck check for me and see.
Good luck.
Oh, I'm sorry, I clicked it twice.
The first one then is a hard success. So yes, I'll let you decide what you think she might have seen.
I'd say that in New York, when she went to talk to the authorities, some of them were kind of evasive and directed her to some murder articles about Jackson Elias. And so she's kind of saw a little bit about that. Figured it was still gangland stuff. And since she's been here, maybe she had followed them to the temple one day or something, and kind of heard about the massacre afterwards.
Yep.
And so
she may even have been watching when Shelley came out. Like, she may have spotted her in the alley that at that point, but not said anything, obviously, right? She just is still watching and seeing people leaving and kind of put two and two together that something something bad had gone down at that mosque, and then read about it in the paper, the following day. And she sure wouldn't know exactly what happened, but she would have picked up, certainly from Shelley's body language and Evie's, that whatever happened there, they were sort of on the receiving end rather than perpetrators.
Right. So you see her processing what you're telling her. You can just tell that, she's kind of halfway watching you and halfway remembering something. And the gun lowers a bit. She kind of sets it down, resting against her knee on her lap. She bites her lip and thinks for a minute.
Ooh, and I also think she probably would have seen Thaddeus and Natalya being manhandled out of the temple, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the crowd of people leaving. So, yeah.
I did see you on your way out of that temple, that mosque, looking quite a bit worse for wear compared to when you went in. I thought at that point maybe I had lost my chance to get any answers. But I waited, and you did show up again. Where's the other one?
She's gone.
What do you
Not
mean,
like
gone?
one of the people that's tied in with the death of your brother has convinced her to leave us to join him. There's been word that she wants to act as a spy in his ranks, but I don't think that will be successful. Natalia's, her hard face had faded when she mentioned Frank. I'm very sorry about your brother. He saved our lives. It was hard to watch. But without him, we wouldn't be here.
As you're telling her this with obvious sincerity, her lower lip starts to tremble a bit. She's obviously struggling to maintain, her hard girl facade. I want to know everything. I need to find these people. If it isn't you that needs to pay, Mr. Pepin, someone's gonna.
Well, I think the best course of action then is to, and he looks down at his handcuffs and over at Natalia's, is to let their hands free. And then we may be able to have a conversation about who's involved and where we're standing right now.
She thinks about it for a minute, looks down at the gun. Well, I suppose I can't keep you in those cuffs forever, but understand, to get rid of me, you're gonna have to kill me, and I'm not gonna go easy. And with that, she had the hammer on the revolver, or the pistol cocked, and she releases it. And she puts the gun down on a side table, and she says, "To your right, Russian girl, there's right under the magazine on that table, you'll find a key. You can unlock the cuffs on both you and Mr. Pepin."
She gets up and moves to the key. It's, Natalya. Natalya Vaskovia. What's your name? And she picks up the key and makes her way back to Thaddeus.
She nods. Natalya. All right. I'm Maxine. Thanks. He called me Max or Maxie. You can call me what you like.
Natalya uncuffs Thaddeus, and then gives the keys to him to undo her.
Thaddeus, holding the key, kind of feels his wrist a little bit. And then unlocks her. Hope yours went as tight as mine.
Sorry, Thaddeus.
That's all right. Then he'll look over at his whiskey. Anybody else need a drink?
I think I still got some from this morning.
Oh. Thinking our meeting.
Max
Need
looks
more.
around the room for it, for the drink you're referring to. When she sees it, she'll go pour herself and everybody some, a generous amount. She'll use that opportunity to approach you both for the first time and kind of almost gingerly hand both of you a glass.
Thank you. He'll look at it and smile at the amount that's in his glass.
Natalya takes it and gives her a nod. So, should we start from the beginning then?
Maxine nods, gives a grim little smile, and then she tosses back the whiskey in a couple big gulps. Then she takes a seat, gets ready to hear the story from the beginning.
So, let's assume you tell her. At what point do you start? Peru?
Yep.
Okay. Are you intentionally leaving out everything, or are you trying to tell the whole story?
Natalya will tell the whole story. She'll mention Elias and everything that. Talk about basically, Mendoza and his crazy, rows and rows of teeth. Mentioning even the insanity that she experienced afterwards. I don't know what Thaddeus is going to talk about.
Oh, I can imagine a little montage of taking a whole afternoon of Maxine listening in, I don't know, is it growing disbelief or fascination or what? But as you tell your tale,
I think it's a mixture, she is trying to determine if this is some joke, or if they take her for a rube who is easy to hoodwink, but as they talk, and their stories kind of match up and they don't contradict each other, she realizes that what they're saying they believe.
mm-hmm.
And she's seen enough to know that they are involved with some very dangerous people indeed.
And
So-
I would say at least Natalia's. I mean, Thaddeus is probably kind of matter of fact about most of it. Is that probably accurate, Sim?
Yeah, to the point.
But Natalya, I would think her telling of her parts, you would definitely pick up the emotion and the that this is something very personal that has affected her. I think Maxine would. Either Natalya is an incredible actress, or she's telling the truth as you believe it. She believes it herself.
As the story kind of winds to a close, Maxine has only interjected once or twice. trying to, just get clarifications here and there. She stops and just processes it for a minute. And she looks from Thaddeus to Natalya and settles on Natalya and says, I've been running the long game since I was out of training draws, but I gotta say, if you're trying to run the long game on me, you're the best I've ever seen.
I wish that this was some sort of long game, Maxine. Or I wish this was all over, but what we tell you is just what happened a little over 4 years ago. There's still much that has gone on that we still need to tell you, including what happened to your brother.
Now, continue then. Do you need another drink? And she gets up to pour again.
And she actually looks to her as well. If you don't mind, in the room back there, there's a container of laudanum, if you don't mind.
The good stuff. Then she looks over at the arm. That does look mighty painful. All right, then. And she goes to the other room. She doesn't shut the door behind her, kind of still unwilling to really let you both out of her sight, although she, does have her back turned as she is looking in the room for the laudanum.
Yeah, it's just on the nightstand.
She picks it up and comes back in with her face looking a little suspicious again, as if she'd expected both of you to be trying something while she was gone.
Well, she would have heard Thaddeus moving around as he went to pour himself another glass.
She looks to Thaddeus. She looks him up and down. You don't know exactly what she's looking for, but seems a little relieved, a little surprised. She holds up the bottle. Is this what you're looking for? To Natalya.
That's it.
She brings it over. Are you able to do this yourself?
I can do this. She uncorks the bottle and she pours some of it into the whiskey.
Maxine just raises an eyebrow, but she's not one to tell anybody to temper their vices.
So he puts back down the bottle. Now, pick up where we started, or where it all continued 4 years later in New York. And Natalya will go into that story about finding Elias dead on the floor with the symbol carved into his head, the people who had just run out of the room. We're talking about police were very suspicious and person who was framed for the murder of all these people in Harlem. And probably, let's see, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, what happened with Benjamin's wife, with her being drained of youth by this cloud. And actually, as she describes that, when Natalya gets to the part about talking where she's trying to pull her with her arm, Natalya kind of looks over to Thaddeus. Do you mind rolling up my sleeve here? Thaddeus.
Yeah, Thaddeus would put down his drink real quick. Yes. You undo the sleeve and kind of pull it up.
Yeah, she hasn't really even shown Thaddeus. Maybe he's seen it She's worn like short sleeves or something, but the skin on, I think it's her left arm, it looks a lot more aged than the rest of her skin. More wrinkles, maybe even like a liver spot or two, but it looks like vastly more aged than the rest of her. She shows Maxine.
Maxine gets close enough to get a look at her arm, and she looks confused and a little bit something between horrified and just slightly disgusted, and also, but she looks up at Natalya, and you can see that there's like sympathy in her eye, and she says, something. As another woman with I can tell that you're the kind of woman that attracts a man's eye, and having something like that happen. She glances down again at the arm. Well, that's a blow.
No. It's at least easy to cover. That didn't hurt me. And she kind of gestures to her arm. This did. This is what truly matters, is my ability to use my strengths. And unfortunately, not as much anymore.
It does look like something terrible happened.
It was almost torn off.
She looks at the arm. But if that was true, I mean, it does look in poor shape, but torn off? That's not what it looks like to me. At least, I mean, you can move it and all.
Oh, we'll get to that. But that is more recent. But after the events in Thaddeus' home, Benjamin had left us. His wife was looking to be in her 80s or 90s. At this point, she looked very, very old, very frail. After what happened, and this woman was a woman in her 20s before. It's our friend Shelley, and you can see Natalya kind of winces at that. The four of us, Frank, Shelley, Thaddeus, and I, we went to investigate this place in New York called the Juju House. So we suspected there had been things going on. And we broke in. Shelley shot down the man, hitting him in the gut and killing him instantly. I threw an old man to the wall and choked him. Pretty sure I broke some of his bones as I did. And we eventually went to the basement, but they seemed very content about bringing us down there. It was unnerving. As we got to the basement, looked inside the door, tried to remain quiet. We saw these people across the way. There was this large circle sealed over. These two people that were tied up, hanging above the ground, and they put these masks on their face and they just started screaming in horror. I had seen the far corner some of Jackson's. I ended up falling into the room. I told the others to go, to run. They didn't. They came to grab me, take me back. And as we tried to escape, they came after us with these machetes, trying to strike us down. And Frank, he He stood in the way for us. He tried to fight them back as best as he could. He took down a few, but they were overwhelming. He slammed the door shut, holding himself against it, allowing us time to crawl up the escape hatch, leave. He just kept screaming to run. We saw him get run down, door splintering open. They just started attacking him to pieces.
Natalia stops there.
Max is listening, leaning forward intently, her lower lip parted. She's almost, panting with emotion. Her eyes are wet. So, you saw it then? You said he was holding them back and you were running. Did you see him die? My Frank, he's a big boy. He's as strong as any 3 men.
It's true, but they were all over him. Maxine. They didn't stop. Even after we kept moving, we could see knives entering him, and we could still hear it. So we left. I don't know if there's anything left of him.
Her eyes squeeze shut at this, and she brings both hands up to her eyes and just kind of covers her face for a minute. She takes a deep, shuddering breath. And after a couple seconds, maybe 20 seconds, she takes her hands down, and you can see that they're smeared a little bit on the palms with a little bit of mascara, but there's no tears streaming down her cheeks. If anything, her face looks harder, more emotionless or resolute. Her jaws are clenched. So that's what happened to Frankie. Did you kill those men?
Natalia shakes her head. No. They're part of something much larger than we had expected at that time. We didn't have the influence nor the people to take them all on. There were so many. We had to run.
She looks angry for a minute, glances at Thaddeus, and then kind of swallows hard and nods. I suppose even the rich and powerful can eventually meet forces that they cannot overcome.
Well, yes, indeed. However, the unfortunate part is that the people behind all this are the rich and powerful. And then they're able to spread out, and other people are willing to follow them.
I know you went to England next. Why?
The notes from Jackson Elias. Everything pointed to go to England to get into contact with the Penhew Foundation. Edward Gaffigan. She says that name with quite a bit of venom in her voice. We went to New York, or left New York. We finally went to London. And Natalia will go into talking about London and what happened there. Talking about she talks a lot about Alan. Mentions him a lot. And very kind of wistfully and very sadly as she talks about him. And mentions the Blue Pyramid Club. And Thaddeus falling down the stairs. And being forced to work for this Zara woman. Talking about how Shelley was kidnapped by Thaddeus, or sorry, by Gavin. And her eventually coming back to us. The plan. Talk about Alice and how she was an ally for a while and eventually just found it too threatening to continue on. Had to leave us. And she'll go into things that happened at Gavigan's Manor as well. With what happened to Alan. And Talia kind of stops at that point. She takes a deep breath and she takes a very long drink.
Well, I think I understand a little bit now about why you persist in the face of these terrible odds. When people you love are taken from you in such a way, damaged in such a way, do you have any other choice?
There is none.
And she nods in agreement. There is no other choice. You do whatever you can to make those people pay.
For everything that's gone on, I've had to give up being a mother to my daughter, and this time had to leave her back home. She, besides Thaddeus, it's the only other family I have. And Natalia looks to Thaddeus at that.
Thaddeus kind of looks back and gives her a little smile. Yes. As of right now, she's the only one I have.
We don't just do this for Jackson. It's much more than that. We do continue for Frank as well.
And she looks at both of you, looking again, searching your faces for sincerity, and eventually seeming satisfied with what she sees. All right. Well, maybe you are the sort of folk that I could find myself working with. People who have faced odds that are obviously stacked against them and continue in the face of it. Because you gotta.
Yeah. I
And
feel
now,
like it's... Hmm?
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Now you're here in this godforsaken land. Eat.
Oh, you're lagging there.
Gone. No. You find yourself in this godforsaken land of heat and dust and camel shit. Your friend abandoned you, no matter what her motivations. What's your next step? I know these folk know you're here. I assume they're the ones that took you from the temple and done you done you wrong. And she looks again at Natalia's shoulder. Frankly, I don't understand why they didn't kill you outright.
It's because of Shelley. She made dealings to make sure we were alive. Otherwise, I'm sure we'd be tortured and dead by now.
She seems a little reluctant and says, well, maybe she weren't such a worthless friend after all. But it seems to me that you're short a partner in this venture.
I feel like the point is moot to say, but you'll probably end up dead.
I don't think probably covers it all. It's almost assuredly the way things have been going.
We're all gonna die. Whether we're picking lead out of our pants, we get blown up trying to break into a safe, some man decides to drink a little too much and decides he doesn't like our face the color it currently is. Death, it's inevitable. I'm going to live my life doing as I please. And right now, she kind of taps the little side table with a lacquered fingernail. This is the only thing that pleases me.
Natalya looks to Thaddeus. I think we need her.
I don't even think if we didn't want to bring her along that she would listen. I think she'd be following us all around everywhere.
Probably.
Oh, there ain't no probably about it. I'd be following you, causing all sorts of trouble. So, I think it probably better to keep me around, causing the sorts of trouble that might actually help us.
Well, welcome to the team, then.
I don't suppose you brought anybody from Chicago with you.
Oh, no. Marty, I reckon he's quite cross with me for leaving. But screw him. And she empties her whiskey glass again. But, trust me, I've been making my own way. I don't need no man to be useful. I got certain, skills that I'm sure we can make use of.
Well, if you can fight, it's something we're lacking a little bit.
I can shoot. I can stab. I can pick a lock. I can be quiet as a shadow. I can convince a man to sell his own mother. I can even occasionally, convince certain people that certain papers say things that maybe they didn't before. Maybe certain things have been smudged out a bit and replaced. Passports. Things of that nature.
Well, that will definitely come into use.
Yes, it will.
And although I think you probably don't need it, she said, looking at Thaddeus, looking him up and down. Over the years, I've managed to put aside a bit from my bows and from my successful jobs, so I'm not completely without means either.
Well, I'm not without means as well.
Obviously. Frank was quite in awe. And she seemed sad a little bit talking about Frank. You know, part of me really thought that I'd come here and you'd tell me that you'd let him go, that he'd been blamed for something, I had to leave the country in shame. You know, I dream of him. I just felt like he wanted me to find him. I guess that was just a fancy of my unconscious desires.
Well, being through what we've been through, sometimes dreams are not a fancy of unconscious desires, but of messages, I guess you could.
She raises an eyebrow. A message from beyond.
Yes, that's one of the things we've learned so far. I have too have seen Frank in my dreams, but more nightmares than anything. However, it seems like lately things have come to fruition with some of the dreams.
Well, if I know my Frank, and believe me, Mr. Pepin, I know him better than you do. If he died trying to protect you, then he'd wish nothing more than, well, good for you and success. He wasn't the sort to hold a grudge, especially not if it was something he'd done willingly.
Well, he was a very honorable man. And that's probably how he died. He was keeping his word to me.
He wasn't that. He was a straight-up sap. She chuckles a little bit into her drink. Really the oddball of our family.
Well, I never will meet anybody like him ever again, I'm sure.
And she smiles.
He was a one of a kind. And to this day, I regret everything that he did. He went into because of.
She smiles sadly and then looks at her drink, kind of raises it up to you two, and then says, well then, to Frank, most honorable sap I've ever known. And the best brother I could have asked for.
Yes, salute.
To Frank.
She downs the drink.
And Natalia drinks her own and looks to Maxine. Is that the door? And Natalia looks to Maxine. Do you... I'll get it. Keep hold of that gun, though.
Oh, there was a sound at the door?
Yeah, it's knocking.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear it. And she says, wait. Are you expecting someone?
Yes. That's why I tell you to hold it, just in case.
Yeah, she goes over to the door and kind of stands behind it where she had been originally.
And Natalia goes to it.
Her revolver again in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it?
It's the doctor. Checking in on you.
Oh, yes.
He I forget what his name is, but he announces his name, not just the doctor.
I know we were expecting him, I think.
Dr. Dulots.
Doctor, please come in, and Natalia will open the door.
And he just steps in and puts his glasses on, and he's all right down to business as soon as he sees you and says, well, let's see it.
Alright.
And seeing that Natalia doesn't look alarmed and isn't shooting her any signals, Max kind of sets the gun down somewhere, slides it under a newspaper or a magazine as the doctor comes in the room.
Yeah, he's gonna change the bandages. And he says, yes, there's a lot of pus in this time. You must be fighting off infection. It's a good sign, really. He says, I'm afraid your arm is likely to get very itchy in coming days as it heals.
That's not the worst of it, at least.
You must be very careful not to disturb the bandages.
Of course, Doctor.
He hasn't even noticed Maxine. He's quite myopic in his attention. He's just very focused on the arm and very down to business.
Curious about Natalia's statement that the arm had been nearly ripped off. She had, comes forward and kind of looks over the doctor's shoulder as he's unwrapping the bandages and cleaning the wound, looking very confused, as she's seen quite a few wounds, mostly gunshots and stabs, but this one certainly looks too healed up for, when she knows it happened, I would say. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah. The doctor notices you and gives you a quick look over. You're not really... It looks like he's, giving you the typical guy up and down appraisal. That would be her reaction anyway.
Yeah, she just gives him kind of a cocky half smile.
And then but he doesn't meet her eyes, really. And then he just kind of goes right back to the arm as if he didn't, nothing to see there kind of look, which I don't know if Maxine would take offense at that or not. He didn't seem impressed or particularly interested.
Yeah, she seems a little taken aback, maybe, but kind of shrugs it off, more interested in the wound than this guy's obvious lack of taste.
And he finishes up. He says, well, you are coming along well, and that's a good sign. He says, I trust you are not exerting yourself.
Yet, mostly stay inside.
Good. He says, and you have sufficient laudanum, I assume. How has the pain been bearable, I trust?
It's been in pain, but it is bearable.
Well, it was a very serious wound, so you're quite lucky. And he says, but you seem to have super recovery powers of some sort.
It's the fact that I'm Russian. It's the only.
He says it's very curious. I shall have to make a study of that sometime. And I trust your associate, Mr. Pepin, is fine?
He's back to his normal state.
Good. And he snaps up his case and takes his glasses off very ritualistically. He has the same routine every time he comes over, and tucks those away and just gives you a quick nod then, and he says, I'll return tomorrow, and goes for the door.
Thank you, Doctor.
And he disappears.
Max the whole time has been After examining the wound, turns her attention to the doctor. Always suspicious of everyone. She's seen people following Nat and Thad, and just has her eyes narrowed a bit, watching him for any hint of nervousness or, anything like that.
I will let you try a psychology roll. That would be the reading people.
Nope.
Yeah. Oh, you might still be suspicious of him. Or
Right.
not. That's up to you. You can't tell. I mean, but who can you trust?
As he leaves, Max closes the door and locks it behind him after kind of peering out into the hallway, looking down both ways. So, you think that one's on the up and up?
Well, he's given me drugs and made sure my arm is fine. He's seems all right to me.
Well, he was right about one thing. Your arm sure does look to be in good shape for being nearly ripped off just a few days ago.
Like I told you with what happened at Gavigan's home when I was shot in the stomach and the car exploded next to me when they brought me in the house and used Alan to help me. A similar thing, I think, happened with my arm. I was passed out. They used some sort of magics on me, I guess. Wasn't the first time, but was the first time that we had encountered a literal monster.
A monster? You mean... And she thinks back. The Temple Massacre. Are you saying that there was something supernatural about that?
Inside, in the basement where we were, one of the walls got knocked down, and there was this flying creature. I don't even know what to call it. And it attacked us. I remember. And Natalya, she smiles a little bit. I remember punching it in the mouth and knocking out some of its teeth.
Well, good on ya.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it attacked me a few more times, and once I was not so lucky to got my arm and threw me across the room. I just remember lying in a pool of blood as I saw Gavigan's face again above me. Horrible man he is.
I saw you and Mr. Pepin being taken from that temple by men. I have to say I'm confused why it is your enemies seem so intent on keeping you alive.
The only reason really is Shelley. She seduced Gavigan, got him on her side, has used his influence in order to save us. We were trapped in some sort of cell of sorts, and talking to another one of their leaders, a man named Omar al-Shakti. And he wanted to kill us, but apparently, because of deals made with Gavigan and Shelley, or things that she had, things that we stole from Gavigan, They were able to get us out, but that trip, I don't even know where we were before, but Natalia looks down, shivers a bit. I don't think I've ever experienced a pain like that in my life before.
Look, Natalia, it's not that I don't want to believe what you're telling me about monsters and magics. And believe me, I went over this place a bit while y'all was enjoying your brunch down in the restaurant. And I found some odd things that do support at least your belief in all this. But do you have any actual proof? Anything that you can show me that any of this is real?
Natalia, she sighs. I have, besides the books, besides newspaper clippings, things that we've received, we don't have anything concrete at all. If nothing you can grab, I mean, I know of things that can be done, but I don't know how dangerous they are, and I don't wish to just do them on a whim.
What do you mean? What things?
This will sound probably crazier than the other things, but there's magics in these books that we have. For at least the one that I read, for summoning things. It's a long story.
You mean the one with the crazy-looking cover on it? Well, if there ever was a magic book, that would be exactly how I pictured it.
It was a very expensive magic book, that's for sure.
Well, Mr. Thaddeus Pippin does appear to have deep pockets.
That he does. He's funded everything thus far. If we weren't attempting to break open this cult conspiracy, I think I'd actually enjoy a bit of a holiday, but there's been enjoyment very few and far between, usually set off by heartbreak afterwards.
Life is full of heartbreak and disappointment, I tell you. Life's shown me nothing else, but that's why you gotta take your pleasure where you can. Are you and, Miss Thaddeus has left the room, maybe, freshening up. She lowers her voice a bit. Are you and Mr. Pippin, kind of waggles her eyebrows.
Oh, she shakes her head. Yes, Thaddeus used to have a wife. She unfortunately passed, and Thaddeus and I are really just friends. We've always have been.
Says how long ago did his wife pass?
I think Thaddeus has told me before. I'm pretty sure.
But it's not super recent.
No, it's not super
Yeah,
recent. It's like before 4 years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago.
Alright. Sorry about that. My dog discovered snow.
It's okay.
Well, you come back from the powder room to see Maxine kind of leaned in saying something to Natalia, and she kind of looks over her shoulder at you returning and then kind of has a furtive look on her face, and she says, well, don't wait too long.
Uh, 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 Talia looks a bit awkward at that. Rubs the back of her head with her good hand.
And I would say she might start to just tidy up a little bit to kind of cover that nervousness.
Yeah.
And as she picks up the letter from Gavigan and, kind of folds it up, everybody is kind of startled when the pages kind of burst into flames.
Yeah, Natalia lets them go.
And they just fall to the carpet and kind of consume themselves.
Maxine kind of leaps forward, stamping on the flames, and as they go out, she leans over and, are there any scraps at all of it left?
No. It consumed very quickly. Almost too quickly.
Yeah, she rubs her fingers over the carpet and kind of looks at her hands for signs of soot. And
Yeah, there's There's none.
She furrows her eyebrows. I've seen some con men, some magicians using flash paper. Have an effect something like that, but there's nothing here. What was that?
That was a note from Gavigan detailing why Shelley left us and to give up our pursuits.
From that wizard.
Huh.
She kind of stands back up and looks thoughtful, obviously kind of reconsidering all the things that you've told her. Well then. You say you've got magic in that book. It may be dangerous, but I suggest you go about seeing if there's some way we can use it.
I don't know if what I know is, magics we can use in our favor, but I'll keep looking into it.
Well, if not, then we find someone who can, and someone who can show us, because you gotta fight fire with fire.
And with that, I think that will be the closing scene.
Hey.
So, welcome, Maxine.
Yep.
Hey.
Had to pick
You
someone
look like a
that
whore.
she kind of is.
Hey.
She's a gang mole.
That's what I totally thought. I'm just like, this is gang ball for sure.
Yeah.